Okay, guys, so today we have got Tom Gannon from Fitwithin on the podcast, and I suppose both myself and Sean know Tom a long while, but for me, I actually trained in Tom's gym a long time ago. So when I decided to become a personal trainer, I think it was back in 2010, you kind of go through your course and you realise, like, oh fuck, I don't know how to do squats and deadlifts. And at that stage, it's like, right, who knows how to do squats and deadlifts, and think CrossFit was where it was at. So Tom, how are you, my man?
Yeah. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm a dad now.
Oh shit.
Life has changed a lot. But yeah, no, it's all good.
And what, son or a daughter?
Son.
How old?
2.5.
Ooh, that's a hard age, isn't it?
That is.
Yeah. It seems that's what everyone tells me. But, we'll figure it out.
You've got it all to come ahead of you. So Tom, listen, let's start off kind of rolling back, right? Because as I said today, it was maybe about 2010, 2011 when I first started training the kind of CrossFit. But what was your transition? How did you get into the fitness industry?
Sure. I was in the motor trade. So I went to college. Got my first job when I was about 13. Then I went to college, yada, yada, had the crack, came out of that. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, potted around a wee bit. I love cars. I'm very interested in influence and selling. And I said, you know what, maybe there's something I can do in that. So I took a job with a guy who I still fondly remember, who ran a dealership, and he did Saab and he did Porsche. And I got a job as a junior with him, and he was a maniac, but I learned a lot. And that the economy took a massive downturn. And then I was always kind of into fitness a little bit. I got into it out of necessity, really. I didn't like the trajectory I was on. I was like, So I'd kind of done some fitnessy stuff. And then I was training with two other guys out in a place in Tala, this tiny, tiny, pokey little spot. And I got involved in that. And I said, you know what, there's a business in this, I think. Why don't we have a crack at it? And I was always toying with the idea of doing it. And I always wanted to own and operate my own business. And then when the economy sort of ate itself, you know what I mean? The Celtic Tiger went bang, and all the easy money and all the crack was gone. I was like, maybe I'll start this. So we did. And that's how I sort of got my foot in the door of it. And then I went, as you can probably remember, Jay, and I went to, all the really intelligent things. I rented a 3,000 square foot unit. And I said, you know what? Let's, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. So that's kind of how I got going.
Deadly.
Yeah.
And I suppose, talk to the people, because again, a lot of people that might be listening to this, if they're coming into Elite, to me and Sean, like maybe they're kind of in their early 20s or whatever, and even other people out there listening to this, what was the kind of fitness landscape like back 2008, 2009, 2010?
Yeah, there was Total Fitness near me, right? There was Westwood, and most of the phone calls we got were, do you have a swimming pool?
Yeah.
Genuine, right? Do you have a swimming pool? What exactly is it that you do? And that is a ludicrous amount of money to expect somebody to pay. You don't even have a swimming pool. You don't even have treadmill.
Yeah. Deadly.
Yeah. There's only there was only a handful of people who, were actually doing it.
Yeah.
I think ours was the first kind of big one. Michael Price of kind of, from way back in CrossFit Dublin, he did something, but there was nobody doing it really.
And even if I remember back then, I was boxing at the time. So this was probably around 2010, and our boxing club was in Sandyford. And literally Michael Price had a shoebox of a gym. Like the guys actually had to train out in the street. That's how small it was.
Yeah.
And I think they were probably around the first, maybe you guys were around the second kind of CrossFit around Dublin. Would that be about right? Ish.
Yeah.
This stuff's brand spanking new, like.
Yeah. It was easier it was easier in some ways because nobody had anything to compare it to. So like if you wanted to do CrossFit, people didn't really have a whole lot of choice. Okay. But it was so much harder in other ways because it was a concept that, there's how do I say this? There's guys who are training in my gym now who are partners in a law firm. They are company directors. They're the avatar you want and need. Okay. They're the guys. But if I had went up and met them and they were like my best friend's dad, and I said, look, man, this will be amazing for you. You're going to look better. You're going to feel better. And okay, the facility's marginally nice, or okay, that's fair. I couldn't have paid them.
Yeah.
To come in.
It was too novel.
Like strength training. It was, like strength training, sweating, having a personal. People are like, what are you talking about, man? Sure, I'm in grand shape. I play a bit of golf. I know I could lose the belly a bit. But so it's a different world, in that respect.
CrossFit was like underground back then, wasn't it? Like this was the brand new thing on the block in America. It was really only dribbling over here. So like trying to describe that, it's way too novel. People just haven't a clue what you're talking about.
No, and we do, we would have even with a lot of kind of sales training stuff I did myself, stuff that companies paid for me to do, et cetera, et cetera. I still struggled to kind of, summarize that for people. So yeah, it was very tricky in that sense.
If you were kind of thinking, because obviously you've been on a journey for the last 10, 15 years, whatever it is, if you were looking at the phases or the steps that you got to go through in order to succeed within the fitness industry, what do you think they might look like?
Okay. So in many ways, it's a game of chance, entrepreneurship, right? And I think a lot of guys leave this out. They're like, no, I'm self-made. I did it all on my own. It's like, no, man, there was a couple of inflection points. You could have got caught and you didn't. Yeah. Or you did get caught and you were just unlucky. What I'm trying to do all the time is increase the probability that I'm going to get to where I want to go. Okay. So you're trying to reduce the risk. And I suppose that's the context I look at stuff through. So the next thing then in terms of phases is I'd look at from a personal point of view for that individual. So guys come to me to do this from a consultancy point of view. It's like, okay, look, what problem are you looking to fix and solve here? Like, what are they actually trying to do? Like, what goal are you chasing? Where are you trying to get? What are you trying to get to? Or what are you trying to get away from? And you'll get guys who are like, look, I've got a job. I don't really like it. It's a pain. I don't see a whole lot of future in it. And I'd like to have a crack at doing something like this. Okay, cool. Why is that important to you? Cool. Now we've got a sense of, right, this is where you are. This is where you'd like to get to. And it seems reasonable. Next is, let's break that down into its main parts, because if you don't do that, it's just overwhelming, right? Like you have 47 different things to do. You don't really know where to start. We've all been there. I'm assuming you guys have. You're lying in bed at night, cold sweats. How am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for that? And you're like, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? So you break the whole thing down, okay, and go, okay, look, here's where you want to get to. This is the direction you think you're going to go. And then we start getting much more mathematical about it. Now, I say that, and sometimes some people just aren't good at maths, and that's fine. But this isn't like quantum physics. Yeah. This is, ABC. And I have a tool I use, and you can break all this stuff down, and it does not take a long time. But what you need to do is figure out what's the income number. First and foremost, right? So you want to earn X, right? Okay, so that's what you want to earn. Now, let's start adding bits in here. What's your rent? What's your rates? What's all the stuff that needs to go in there? What's your capital that you're putting in at the start? I see guys doing this. Guys put like 50, 60, 70 grand of like savings after tax income into a business. And they have no method of getting that money back out.
It's usually toys, isn't it? We want to buy nice toys.
Well, that's an element too. They're buying the gym they think they want. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And 100%. Like I remember seeing this way back. Customers coming, why don't you have like the curved assault runner things? And I was like, nah, you're okay, thanks, mate. And then 8 months, a year later, Facebook Marketplace, some lads flogging the yoke off for a third of what he paid for it. But the next bit then you're looking at is all of the basic costs or the costs they think are there. And then all the costs they've forgotten about, right? That you just can't figure out until someone else shows you, okay? And those details really, really matter. It's the same as, you guys, martial arts backgrounds. It's like it's like a good training program, a good diet. Like the devil is in the details, okay? And like the really good people, the really high performers, the differences are often small little bits. So then you're going to factor in all your stuff like signage, laptops, a whole host of stuff, right? And to give people a bit of context, because I do a lot of this stuff and I have another idea for the future. But my yoke, okay, now I don't have Eleco, don't have, I have all my stuff is good. You guys you come in and go, yeah, this is tidy, this is nice. All in, if I turnkey had to go again tomorrow, I need 150 grand. Right? And you guys are nodding away.
Yeah.
If you wanted to open an F45, you need to be able to put your hands on about 200 grand. Right? Now, I wouldn't touch one with a stick.
Yeah.
Right? I wouldn't. And I've had to do a bit of work on that for someone. They asked me, but that's beside the point. So I figure all that stuff out. Okay. And then I go, okay, so what's the total number I need to do with all of those things taken into account, plus a large margin for error? Because you're going to get caught out.
Shit, you don't know that's going to come.
Stuff that just happens. You know what I mean? And it does just happen. And that's, in my sense, that's the difference between amateurs and professionals. Right? Professionals are, they're quite prepared. It's not like they're, like people like, the guys in the fitness space, like, oh, Jocko Willink and he's amazing. It's like, these guys are so meticulous in some ways. The standard is so methodical because then you can rely on it and you can trust and you have faith in the numbers. So I have that, right? You build a whole thing out and then you make sure, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, make sure that the salary figure you're aiming for is adequate when you take into account the risk that you're going to take on and the opportunity cost of what you're leaving if you're leaving something. Okay. So you see a guy leaving a job, right? And it's like 45 grand a year or whatever it is, right? You just pick a number. It's a number. And he's like, yeah, I know, but it wasn't much. But he's got 4 weeks holidays, right? He's got 10 days of bank holidays. So he's off for 6 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. He's protected by, the WRC, if it really went awry, but like he's protected by HR law. He's protected by minimum wage stuff. He's protected by, you don't have any of that when you're a company director. Like it's not there. So the salary has to match up to that. Now that's independent. Everybody has a different standard. Everybody's chasing different things. Everybody has different needs, et cetera, et cetera. But you've got to do all of that because if you don't do that, it's wrong and it's wrong forever. And it's really hard to fix backwards.
I hear you.
So that's the first bit. You build that whole thing out and I reassure guys, it doesn't take long. Like it just doesn't. It's a tool. You run your way through it and you go, okay, there. Next, what you figure out is, okay, so that's the number, da-da-da-da-da. Then what I'm looking at is, okay, how do we get there? Okay. So again, if you look at it from another point of view, like how many revenue generating weeks do I have? Okay. So, take us, we have kids, right? So there's 52 weeks in a year. You've 4 weeks of holidays, you should. But like I remember my first 3 years, right? I worked 60, 70 hours a week, every week without fail. Like I just nonstop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not to go, and I know I kind of jump around on points, but like, I think there's a weird thing in Instagram and the world at the moment where people are like, oh yeah, I do 3 hours a week and I make 150 grand a year. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. It's like this shame around hard work and then sort of push forward this idea that, you can be in the 0.01% of the population, right? But you're not doing what almost every single one of those people who have made that money or worked in an industry, have done to get there. So the next bit then is I'm like, okay, look, that's where I'm at. What do I need to do per week in sales? Okay. And that's a hard number. That's a hard thing to do because when you set a standard and you have a number like that, and you can do this a load of different ways, what happens with the standard and the metric is it shows up your inadequacies. Right. And that's the big thing I see with businesses. You just, you don't have a manager to save you. You know what I mean? You don't work for a big organization where they've got loads of margin and somebody's built all this stuff out. Like your mistakes are
costly.
Like you get punished. Yeah. You get punished.
You don't make
real
that call
fast.
You know about it.
Yeah.
I'm sensing from you here, like you're a numbers guy, Tom, and like I'm sure like being in the car industry and being so close to the profit and loss and realizing that there's a consequence for the mistake you make. and I'm also sensing I know you work with business and you help them. Do you see a lot of guys just overlook this and think the fitness industry's fucking easy? It's just let's just jump in, it'll be grand. If we build it, they will come.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? Lots of guys do that. It's generally the difference between a professional and amateur.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Put simply. And I see this. I'm a fitness professional. Yeah. Like, I don't mean that in it, but it's like, are you? Because here's what actual professionals do. Professional carpenter, professional mechanic, they're like, they price jobs. All we're doing is pricing the same thing, but it's at scale.
Yeah.
Right? Now, even if you do get it completely backwards, you can fix it quickly. Right? You can. I've seen this. You've probably seen it. Gym turnaround and guys who are like, all right, look, I'm in I've got a problem here. It's not necessarily, that you're goosed, because you aren't. You never are. Almost every problem is fixable. But to answer your question, yeah, I see lots of people go in. And again, it's not even malicious. It's not neglect. I think sometimes you're naive to it until you're in it.
Yeah, they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, it's like having a kid. Like, in my mind, I was like, well, I'm going to have a kid. And now I'm like,
oh shit.
Oh, I'm like, wow. But like, here's the thing. But I hear you guys can relate to this. I'm like, campy and creche. I've got a lot of stuff on. My partner has other stuff on. It's like, oh, so like, you could miss 4, 5, 6 days.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Yeah.
So again, it's that thing, you don't know what you don't know, and you need a guide. You need someone who can point you in the right direction. And this is the thing that astounds me. And I would say it astounds you guys too. People who are going to open a business, right, that's predominantly geared around coaching, okay, don't have coaches, right? Now, fair enough. If you don't need a management accounts or an accountant to coach you because you're good at those numbers, maybe fair enough, but they'll always find a gap, right? But if you don't understand margin, if you don't understand, like, whatever, kind of, in all honesty, fundamental, basic mathematical skills in terms of how a business operates, and you don't hire a coach, that's professionally irresponsible. Like, that's almost negligent.
Yeah, big time.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're, and it's not like and some people have skills in different areas. Like, some guys are like mathematical and they're just like, they could do numbers all day, but other stuff they aren't good at.
Yeah.
So, but part of the challenge, I think, is it's your job now. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You have to get this stuff. You have to figure this stuff out, and you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family and the people around you, and you owe it to the people in your business. And this sounds a bit kind of virtue signaling, but to the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
See, lads, I love the fitness industry. It's like, do you? You've opened a yoke, right? That's going to lose money, right? It's going to lose money hand over fist, month after month after month. People are paying you €7 a class. Like, you're burying this for everyone around you.
You're ruining
well, it's
it for
kind of
the rest
conditioning,
of us.
isn't it? In many ways, you're conditioning people to expect certain things. So if a class
100%.
is €7 and you go in and your class is whatever, 30, 40, 50, it's like, whoa, fuck, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to come in there, Tom. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So the next thing that I do is I'm like, right, okay, so let's just say top 9 number, right? I need to do 30 grand a month. Just do whatever, for argument's sake, easy. I need to do 30 grand a month to hit all my numbers to make this worth my while. Okay. Because there's so much involved. Mm-hmm. Like, and you guys are smiling, not away, like 60, 70 hours a week, working non-stop. Right. And I work with a lot of company directors in my business. They all say a similar thing.
Yeah.
They're all like, yeah. So you work all that out and I go, right, now how am I going to get there? So let's say I need to do 30 grand a month, right? Well, am I going to charge 150 quid a month and have 200 customers? Or am I going to charge 300 quid a month and have 100 customers? Mm-hmm. These are questions guys have never even considered.
Yeah.
Now you guys are like, all day, every day, if I can do it, I'm going to go for 100 people at 300 quid a month.
No doubt about it,
100%. For the basic mathematical reason of that, right? Then secondly, let's say you're churning 10%. Let's just say you're, whatever. So you're doing 30, you need to replace 10 people a month. As opposed to if you do it the other way around, you're replacing 20. So now you're into set, show, close, from appointments to inquiry. It's
your lead gen,
you work
marketing costs.
Yeah. And then just the administration.
Setting, actually handling that many, the volume of calls, the volume of appointments, people not showing up.
Yep.
It's an extra 20 hours in your business.
Yeah. So then you work all that out, right? And then you're like, okay, that's where I need to get to. Okay. So I need to get to this number. Here's what I think I'm going to do in terms of how I'm going to get there, right? In terms of like, I'm going to do it at $250 a month. I'm going to build out that service, build out that, and then you have to figure out, can you do it? And, organizationally in the gym and pods and spaces and all of that. That's a whole other kind of thing. But again, it's easy to fix. Like you can fix it quickly, right?
If you know where to look though. I mean, there's plenty of people who've got into the middle of this. And it's kind of like, if you're on a flight to fucking Spain, right, and the pilot dies and they're looking around and it's like, hey, you fly the plane. It's like, I don't know how to fucking fly this thing. You're losing altitude pretty quickly here and you haven't a clue how to even read the dials. Is basically where some people are in the business here.
I think when, that even thing, the way you're saying about pods and things, it's like we've seen so many people and they go to, one of the companies that have all the shiny gear. They ring them up and they're like, hey, I want gym gear. And your man comes down and goes, yeah, I'll measure that up. And he's fucking selling them pods and this and attachments. And it's like, but who are you training and how are you training them? I didn't really think of that. And I'm 50 grand in the hole now because I've bought these new pods or whatever the hell that I'm putting in my gym. It's crazy.
Yeah. 100%. But to be fair to everybody, like that's, it's experience.
Yeah.
Like you're making all these mistakes, but the key is to try to, I suppose, firstly, spot the mistake by being somewhat introspective and looking backwards and then acknowledging it. Like I say to everyone on my team, I'm like, if we don't look back on what we were doing, it's a bit different now because we're much more mature and we've had some changes. But if we don't look back on what we were doing 6 months ago and go, oh, that wasn't great, we're probably not trying that hard.
Yeah.
And again, not to make but like it's, if you were to take a car sales thing, like it would be like if I had stayed in the car business, right? The world hadn't kind of, created the opportunities or challenges it created, right? And bear in mind, like back then I had a mortgage, I was under pressure. And I was still working for your man, still selling the same cars. Do you know?
Yeah.
And I see this in the fitness space. Guys are like, yeah, I do PT, I do one-on-one PT, and it's pick a number, right? Whatever the number is. And I was like, deadly. And how long have you been doing that for? About 8 years. Great. Has it changed much? Has it moved much? No. Okay, so you've done the same year 8 times.
Yep.
Like that to me would break me in half. I'd be like, what am I doing? Do you know what I mean? Like this is it's like Groundhog Day. I'm not making any progress, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I do. And then it's a case of, okay, how am I going to get to that number?
Mm-hmm.
How do I get to the 30K? Where am I starting from? Right. So I'm like, let's say I'm at $2,000 a month or something like that. Now, how am I going to get to the 30K? And really what I'm trying to do in my space and with people I'm working with is I'm trying to close that gap fast, because not to get too sort of nerdy about numbers, but like cash flow forecasts, money burn rate, like, you can burn through a lot of money real quick if you've got like 15, 18 grand a month of operating expenses and you're only doing 5 grand a month. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you have a problem. It's how quickly can you close that gap? And one thing, like we were talking about like coming up or whatever, like one thing, through the years, no access to finance. Like 2010.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go to the bank. They're like,
get out of here.
Literally, like you must be out of your mind, pal. And like, I'd be going to them with like, numbers that we kind of, finagle to make them present them, to make them look a little bit better. You can do, yeah, exactly. And they were like, just get out. So, you know what I mean? There's lads now going to the bank at well, okay, it's changing. Maybe it's on the downturn a wee bit now, but there's lads going in there like, I've got 150 grand. And I was like,
holy shit.
Yeah.
If you were thinking there that I want some of that stuff, all right. So you're kind of saying what you're doing with guys. If you were looking back to some of the mistakes maybe that you've made, or maybe what would you do differently if you could kind of fast track yourself?
Yeah. So and I say this really, really against myself, right? What I would have done is I wouldn't have done group. We did group right from the start, large group, right? 150 quid a month, and the margin was okay because I had done all of this, right? Like I have this is the way my mind works. I reverse engineer things backwards. I had done all this, but if I was going to do it again, I'd do small group, right? 3-on-1, 4-on-1. And I kind of did do this in some ways, but what I really would have done was I would have gone at the selling much, much harder than I actually did. Now I had to manage a lot of different stuff, right? I did all of the business side of things, and we quite quickly got to about 22, 23 grand a month. But what I'm saying for people who are listening, and you guys will probably, see where I'm coming from. Like, okay, I'll put it this way. Sean, what's the most number of memberships you've sold in a week?
Memberships in a week? I'd say 15.
Yeah, right. Now, you've done 15.
Yep.
Okay. Jay, most number you've done
I think that's where we're probably in around that 10, 15, thereabouts.
Right. Okay, let's say 15. But you've sold 15 memberships whilst
handling all your
I would
tasks.
imagine wearing a couple of other hats.
100%.
Right? Okay, fair enough. So you did 15, you did 15. Let's assume Tom can do 15. Right? So that's 45 in a week. Now, when I say that, people are like, you say this, we're like, well, no, hang on. They want to come up with 45 or 35 reasons as to why that's not going to work, right? Trust me, right? But the same people who said to me, you're going to open a garage gym and you're going to, none of that will work. I'm like, yeah, all right. Thanks, Chief. Because, I'll see you on the other side. Yeah. But I can sell 15, you can sell 15, that's 45 in a week. Mm-hmm. In a month, you can sell 180 memberships. And I really mean this for people who are listening, right? Because selling won't fix all your problems. It won't, okay? But it's a bit like, it's like some sports, right? Like basketball, right? Like Michael Jordan can win games. The guys who are defending can't. They can stop you losing a game.
Yeah.
But the guy at the top end, there's a reason why, if you drill into these numbers, right? People in that €150,000 a year bracket, which puts you bang, way up into that top 1%, okay, in Ireland. Like 85 grand a year put you in the top 5%, okay? If you actually go into the numbers in the CSO and look at this, because lots of people are like, 100 grand a year, that's not, it's like, no, this is what the data will tell you, right? That is disproportionately represented. The people at 150 grand a year and plus is disproportionately represented. You really, really root around at this by people who can sell. And the reason being, they're the people who can drive a business on.
Produce.
Make a difference, isn't it?
Well, there's nobody to take care of. There's nobody to service. There's nobody to coach. And there's nobody to look after if you can't get people in the door.
Like you can't save your way to profit or save your way to making money. Like you've got to sell your way.
100%. So to go back a step, right, in terms of like what I would do differently. Now this probably sounds real kind of oddbally stuff, but I think, you'd probably both get a laugh, maybe Sean more so. Like I would literally have myself in this room, right? Somebody else over there and somebody else over there. Noise cancelling headphones. Everything's set up for the day, right? All the meals, everything's there, right? There's a schedule. Everybody knows what they're there to do. Okay. And because salespeople, like hard sales rooms or hard sales teams, are tough places to be, right? Because everyone's kind of scrambling for the top. I do it differently. I go, right, lads, this is the number. You're going to have to do 50 in a week between the three of us. We're going to do that for 4 weeks in a row. Okay. And if we can do that, and we pick something that would be really cool. It's not money. Because guys who can sell like that already make good money. It has to be something exciting, something cool, something like that. And the reason you do it that way is because you now have everyone going together. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, Sean, I had this thing and everything scheduled out in the day. There's a chance to review calls. There's a chance to check in. I was like, I had this bit and I got caught in it. Now, if we're all working together, Sean's going to be like, no, do this. And I go, mega. If we're not, the lads will eat one another alive.
Yeah, like you used to do in the showroom. Like,
well, in all of those sort of places, right? But if you do that, that's 200 people in 4 weeks. And I'll tell you now for a fact, because my business model is very different now. That's very doable. And a long time ago, like we're talking like London, Travis, the early days of fucking Facebook ads, I can sell €185 membership over the phone, done, paid for, bought, right? Like clockwork. Of those, if I sell 10, 18%, okay, because I have all the numbers and I had to look at this before the podcast because I track all this stuff. Because without the data, you're just kind of, you're a little bit lost. Would paid in full. It's like, look, 90 days, I'll give you 10% off. You pay the whole lot up in one go. So we could mathematically build that out. And it's like, hang on a minute, 4 weeks. In today's market, you sell 200 quid over the phone, no problem, right? You can open a yoke, 40 grand.
That's right.
If you know what to do and if you have the skill in
fact.
Like, so like,
yeah.
I mean, your conditioning, your eyes on that business is the only way that's going to produce that, or your help looking at that. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I see you're 100% right.
But that's what I'm saying. The reason I'm saying it here, right, is because the point I was making at the start. If I was doing it differently, I would have done that so that I didn't spend so long sort of gently tipping my way up. Yeah. And in that time, you're getting battered and you're stressed and, because the money doesn't fix everything, but it makes, it can make a lot of problems go away fast.
Fucking right.
Simple stuff like who's cleaning the gym? Who's cleaning the gym? I remember being here 9 o'clock at night, cleaning a place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm standing going, I made a lot of money selling cars. And I'm standing going, what am I doing?
Selling Porsches to fucking Hoover in a gym.
Literally, we're going, this is bananas. So that's one of the first things I would do. And then the second, one of the other main things that I would do that we do now is with my team. I want to make sure that our incentives are aligned. So what I need is for the coaching team at a basic level to take really, really good care of customers and make sure the customer comes back. And the customer comes back because they feel well taken care of and they're making progress towards the goal that matters to them. And then everybody on my team, apart from people in that kind of, as they're kind of new and they're being onboarded, they don't get this deal at the start, okay, for lots of obvious reasons. But everybody on my team is paid proportionally on what their pool of clients pays. Okay. And the reason we have that, it means everybody's finger is on the pulse. The team I have are incredible. Yeah. My team are incredible. And I don't say that like they could train, they can, and they do. They could train my dad. They could train the mother of my son. Like, they are brilliant. The difficulty I've seen in this space with other people is you get guys, you put them on a flat rate for a salary, right? And more often than not, there's periods where it's a little bit lax and But if you sometimes then have to go to them and be like, hey man, there's this next bit that we need to do, sometimes you get resistance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're like, well, I'm not really up for that. Or, the other reason why I do it that way is, and there's loads of reasons, but these are kind of the main ones, is I don't want favoritism. I don't want, I get on real well with Johnny, so I'm going to give him an extra 10% this year. And he asks me about the football. I'm not interested in that. Yeah. Right? Like, and you've seen this and especially in large organizations. It's like, that guy is killing it. And I know he's killing it because his numbers demonstrate that. So he can make more money faster and on we go. Because I've seen this, you know what I mean? Where you're working in a place and somebody gets a promotion simply because of an interpersonal relationship.
Yeah.
There's favoritism.
Yeah.
Which, doesn't really work. The other reason why I do it that, because I had a guy and he worked for me for about 4 weeks and then he bounced out. He's like, Tom, I'm going to leave before you fire me. right? And he's a lovely guy, but he got it. And the way he summed it up was, he says, "This isn't the team for me, man. Like, these guys are serious.
Yeah.
Like, no one here is hanging around."
Yeah.
You know, and he sort of understood that pretty quickly. But, you know, if you don't have that, as the business grows, it becomes harder and harder to manage the whole thing collectively. And then, you know, it's hard if you've got 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 people on a team and one of them just isn't pulling their weight.
So you feel everybody has to be connected to the balance sheet in some way. They have to see the results they're producing then, P&L wise, and really be bought into the vision of the business.
Yeah, to a degree. But like, here's another one. I had this comment with a guy. He did an interview with me and he was like, "Well, you know, money isn't really all that important to me." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay. If you work for me and you were on, let's say you're on 38 grand a year, 40 grand a year, and you're tipping along and you like it, and you enjoy coaching and and a gym around the corner, right? Kitted out, similar setup, all the rest. But they have a sign on the door. PT's wanted. Basic salary, 60 grand a year. OTE earnings, 75. I said, and they, you know, or there was a sign and you saw it, or someone rang you, headhunter, you know, whatever, and said, "Hey, look, it's the same gig. In essence, you're going to work 37 and a half hours a week. You've got your holidays. I said, "Would you be interested?" And he was like, yeah, I would. I was like, "Okay. So the money does."
So what are you talking about?
Yeah. So that's, you know, that's one of the main things I would do. And, you know, another element of that is kind of margin. So let's say you do one-on-one PT, right? Let's say you're doing one-on-one PT and you're working off a 25% net profit margin. And net profit margin, for anybody who's listening, and this isn't to sound smart or patronizing, net profit margin is where you live as the owner. Okay. That your money is in the margin. If you're not making margin, everybody gets paid. You don't, right? But let's say you're doing 60 quid an hour, one-on-one PT, 25% net profit margin, or 25% net profit margin, you're making 15 quid an hour, right? Now, let's imagine you could adjust that. There's loads of different ways of doing it, but you go, "Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do 3-on-1 PT, okay, at 120 quid an hour." Now, there's more obligation for me to fill it, fair enough, but doing 1-on-1 PT, doing 3-on-1 PT,
Similar
there's not a huge difference. If you can't do 3-on-1, right, and you're at such an early stage in your career development, skill development, craft, trade learning, in my opinion, you shouldn't be thinking about opening a facility, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you break those numbers down, even when you factor in things like your VAT and your Stripe and blah, blah, blah. So it's, you know, VAT, Stripe combined together is around about 12% is what you're going to lose off the top. Okay. When you're up and running, because there's other stuff you can do with VAT at the early days, because you can rebate stuff. But anyway, you go from a 15 euro profit margin per hour to approximately 120 euro net profit margin, right?
Big difference.
And this isn't trickery. Like, me and you, we can all sit in a room together and we can put it up on a whiteboard and run down through it. Now, if you extrapolate that out over 25 contact hours a week, 48, 47 working weeks in the year, whatever it is, that number is monumental. And the reason I stress that so much with people is what you're doing is so hard already. Yeah. Like, the success rate of small, independently owned and operated businesses is very low. And the main reason for that, in my opinion, is a lot of the due diligence that needs to be done at the start isn't done. So you're goosed from the start, right? It's completely flawed. But if you get those numbers right, and then you have somebody else look at it, you're like, "Oh, hang on a minute. Well, we could tweak that, you know, and look what happens." So there, you know, and there's I'm rambling, to be fair, but they're the main bits I would be looking at, you know, because they're the big levers.
You make some good points. And let me ask you this: is there some guys who should, and especially after listening to this and realizing the due diligence is required, who should never open a fitness business? And is there maybe some dudes who need to know when the fuck to quit?
Yeah, I think if you don't truly want to do the work, you shouldn't open a business. I think in what I see is there's a lot of space where people are like, you know, they've an idea in their head of what owning and running a business is like. And it's nowhere near the reality. Like, it just isn't. Do you know what I mean? It's just not the same. Or they have an ambition to be, you know, 1%er, right? I want to be 150 grand a year. I want to be jacked. I want to work 30 hours a week and I want to have 10 weeks off. It's like, cool, you can do all of those things, but this is what this looks like. These are the steps, right? And like, and again, you to know yourself, right? When somebody lays that out in front of you, like, do you want to do this? Like, do you have an appetite for it? And people will be like, well, that's a bit negative at the start. And they might be right, okay? Because these are just my opinions. But my sense of it is, when you're there and you're all gung-ho and I think I'm going to do it, and somebody puts it out in front of you, it's quite sobering. But if when you look at it, you're like, nah, I don't fancy it, right? Or you're a bit unsure. When you're 4 weeks in and something's gone wrong and you're hemorrhaging money and a staff member has done something and you've got 18 missed phone calls, all of which are going to take you 10 minutes to deal with. You've got, you know, all the stuff.
It's not as easy as it looks then on social.
It's like somebody's, the toilet's broken. It's like, right, who's going to go and fix this?
Clean the shite bubble.
Who's going to fix this?
Yeah. So that, you know, that would be my take on it. But the other side of it, I do believe this, right? I think there's plenty of people who aren't opening them who should.
Yeah.
I really do. Because there's guys out there, you know what I mean? And you're like, you lay it out. Hey, man, look, this is, and I'm like, all right, yeah, that looks, gotta have a crack at that. And, you know, but they're a bit unsure of themselves.
Yeah. You kind of need that little pusher, kind of helping hand there. Like what you said at the beginning, a mentor of some description or a coach.
Yeah, but it's like all these things, right? You guys do martial arts and boxing and stuff like that. Like, do you know what I mean? It happens in stages.
Yeah.
If I'm like, you know what, Jay, I was interested in doing a little bit of boxing. I'd like to learn. I'm reasonably physically capable, blah, blah, blah. And Jay's like, yeah, cool, come on down. And day one, it's like, you know, and Jay's like, go, move. It's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And then you get a break and then you come in on day two and Jay's just moving and he's just battering you. It's like, well, who's coming back?
We
you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like signing up for a fight in day one. Like, you're
but if you
steps.
come in and it's, if you come in on day one, it's like, hey, this is lovely, nice and tidy, and you got a bit of support and a bit of encouragement, and a bit of well done, good on you, man, that's nice, and you do the next one, and next one, and next one, and next one, and next one. You can go really, really far.
Talk to us about this, all right? Because, you know, I fucking really hate saying this word, the COVID word, all right? You know, and listen, if you've been in the fitness industry, you took a kicking. There were some people, you know, they went online. Some people, they kind of crunched down. They got their businesses a bit stronger. Some people tried a hybrid option. Where do you see the future of the fitness industry, or, you know, the best business model?
Yeah, bricks and mortar.
Yeah,
100%. It's not just because I do it, right? And I'm going to build out a model and I have an idea for all of us, right? We might get to do it on the podcast. We might do it on a proper phone call. But here's why I think it is. Most people's houses are small. Okay. They want help. They want support. They want connection. They want advice. Okay. And they want a place to go and do that. That's the people I'm dealing with now. They're 45, 50, 55, 60, right? So that's that generation. And they need that help and they need that support and they want an outlet, right? That isn't the pub, that isn't all of that. So there's loads of opportunity there if you do all the things you've talked about and you build it out. But the other reason why I think it is, where I think the future is in this sort of bricks and mortar thing, is the next generation who are coming through, right? Like there's guys out there in their 20s and they've got coaches.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
online coaches.
Yeah.
And they're going to Fly Fit, right? They're going to Fly Fit and they're trying to do the program.
Yeah.
But they get into Fly Fit and there's some lad and he's in the way and you can't get over to this machine and it's like, come on. So a lot of what I'm looking at, right, is pods. I don't mean pod as in like a phone box. As in like, I have a squat rack, right? All my plates are there. Okay. Pull-ups, right? To the right or left, I have dumbbells within reason, right?
Sounds like our gym.
Yeah, right. Kettlebells.
He was looking at our videos.
Bands. Oh, it's all secrets, lads. Right? Yeah. bands, all the bits and pieces, maybe a pulley machine, maybe not, whatever, and a concept to bit, right? So adjustable bench, maybe. Adjustable benches are so expensive.
So expensive. $1,000.
They're like, they're literally like just 6 times the price.
You don't want to go out and buy them. 20 of them bad boys.
No,
we're going to share benches. We're going to share benches.
Well, you can if you've got it all built out right? Yeah. But you build out that lovely class-based system, and you might do it in stages, right? Because, there's guys out there and 15 kilo dumbbells are nothing to them, right? Even for like bicep curls and all that. So they might have a section where it's like, look, over that end is. But the reason I say that is those people who have coaches and are trying to do stuff in other places, like they're looking for something better.
There is a big
than what they
shift.
have access to.
There really is a big cultural shift. Like kids are going to the gym on Friday nights rather than like back in my day, it was like straight to the fucking pub. You know what I mean? And car sales days, like all the salesmen would have met in the pub on a Friday night. Whereas kids coming up, they're really health focused. They're health conscious.
You go to Fly Fit on a Friday night and you're like, fuck, these young lads are jacked. They're putting in the work. Now, some of the shit they're doing is crazy, but they're putting in the work. Do you know
Generally speaking, they're doing some good shit.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to that point I made at the very start of the conversation. It's like, what problem are we trying to solve? What problem do these people have, and what would solve it for them? And you're like, hey, you can book this, and then also at that point, they're like, look, man, you're already killing it. You're already pushing on really hard. You're well able to train. But a coach with the right program and a couple of adjustments to technique and atmosphere and all that kind of jazz, you can go to that next stage. So I really believe that. Another reason why I don't like online, okay, I don't personally, is it's like the 80-20 rule, right? If I go online tomorrow, who am I competing with?
Oh,
the best in the world, right? And the best. Like once they click and once they get going, what you'll see is their ability to spend so they can produce better content, better apps, better systems, like €1,000 a day on Facebook ads, 10 grand a day on Facebook ads. So the problem is it's very hard then to compete with them.
The rule you're fighting against there is he who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins, and these guys will outspend you.
Yeah, left, right, and center.
In many ways, but like the other side of it is like in many ways, 100%. But it's also they can also buy the best talent.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like let's say I turn to you and go, look, I'm going to run a gym and I'm going to get it to do $250,000 a year, right? 62 grand a month, whatever it is, right? And we could build all this out, right? And we can, because to skip a step, that's an idea I have, right? To get guys, me, you, couple of others, very carefully selected, who are far enough away from one another that it's not going to create any issues. And this is really a very genuine idea I have. We go, look, we're going to take 5 days off. We're going to go somewhere. Okay. And we're all going to be in a room together and we're going to build this thing out. Right. Because again, I'm skipping a step, but like there's so many guys out there who are working on their business all day, every day, all day. They're like a donkey, just, head down, keep moving, which is fine. We all have to do that. We've all done that. But there's a point where you have to get a little bit smarter. So if I said, look, guys, 5 days off, this will change your life, like in a very positive way, but we're going to sit down. These are the people who are coming. Nobody here is messing around. Everybody here is demonstrably good. Okay. And here's our goal. We're going to aim for a yoke that'll do between 750 and $1 million with spot on margins to take into account all the other bits and pieces, my perspective on margins. And there'll be some other guy there who'll be like, well, actually, Tom, you missed this. And I'll go, oh, I did. Right. No egos. Everybody's there to win. Everybody's there to push on. It's like, when you, and I never, I never boxed or did anything competitively. Right. But when you see guys and they're so good and they're sparring together and it's so snappy, but nobody's actually getting hurt.
Yeah, poetry in motion.
Yeah, they're just like, and like, there's a real skill to that. So that's the idea behind the room. Do you know what I mean? It's like, can we do that? But go back a step. Let's say I get a yoke and it's doing 60 grand a month. And I go,
he loves
okay.
That,
I love how you call gyms a yoke. Just get me a yoke.
That's
what we used to call cars back in the day.
Yeah.
But like, and I go, okay, based on my margins, I can do, and again, this is very selective in terms of the business you wanted to run and how you want to do it. But let's say I go, okay, I can do 30% of that I can attribute to payroll in totality, total employer's payroll cost. So I'm got it doing 60 grand a month. I can do 30. That's 18 grand a month, right? If you have the ratios right. And we have to decide all those ratios. This takes time, but it doesn't take as long as everybody thinks it does. And I go, right, 18 grand. Okay, 18 grand. How many people do I need actually full time to manage it? A gym like this? Do I need 4? Maybe. Okay, 18 grand, 4 into 18 is 4.5. 4.5 multiplied by 12 is 54 grand. And the reason I'm making that point is the thing about talent. Okay, you guys know, if I put an ad up on Indeed now, type it out, 54 grand a year, personal trainer, 37 and a half hours a week, right? All the other bits and pieces, all the other bits. See, because at that level, everyone is doing CPD, right? Continued professional development. Everybody is looked after, blah, blah, blah. And I put that ad up. What do you think my inbox is going to look like?
Yeah.
Just be lads like, yeah, let's go. Right. And that's what, that's, I really do believe that. And I think all of that's very, very doable.
Yeah.
So
that's an awesome vision.
Yeah, that's
an awesome vision.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's very doable.
Yeah,
it is.
100%.
That's a great pitch.
But the thing as well is, like, very often we look to the external, you look to America, you look to the UK, and, there's fucking people over there and they're doing great things, but it doesn't always necessarily translate back to what we're doing here. There is differences. But Tom, talk to us about this, right? Because you mentioned about problems a lot. So you mentioned about the problem with a client that you're solving. You mentioned about different problems within business. What is your belief around, I suppose, making problems solvable in your mind before it comes into reality?
Yeah. A lot of it's the prep, right? So a lot of problems are you got it wrong way beforehand, right? So the problem happened before the problem arrived. Okay. So, some stuff's unforeseeable, but a lot of it's kind of pretty predictable in many ways if you stand back with dispassionately. But I suppose the way I look at problems is, okay, how did this happen? Has this happened once, or is this a thing that just keeps happening? Right. So I'll give you an example. Guys like, I'm just not making enough money. Or sorry, they go, I need more clients. And they don't really need more clients. What they need is more money for themselves. Right. So what they actually need is more margin. Okay. Because getting more clients, like I've seen guys do this, 160, 170 clients in their gym, and they still aren't making money. Yeah. That is soul crushing. Like it really, really is. So the first bit is like, we've got to figure out what the actual problem is. And then you have to be very, very selective about who we talk to about fixing that problem, because almost everybody will give you an opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. But, to put it into context, like, do they have a context to actually give you decent advice on that problem? And I will say this, almost nobody does, because they don't have the context you're in for a start. Secondly, just from a ratio or a sort of percentage number, they probably don't own, run, and operate a business, right? And if they do, it's not your business. Okay, it's not in your industry. So here's an example. Like, it's a thing we've all seen. Like, everyone knows, you got to do cardio to lose fat. It's a universally held opinion and belief people have. So people that say this about their business, I'm going to start a business. Cool. What's your plan on like getting customers? It's going to be mostly from referral. Who's going to refer my customers? Where are you going to get them from? Referral. Like, we're in a circular loop here that doesn't. Do you know what I mean? So that's the thing. You have to be fully understand what the problem is, and then be very, very selective about who you talk to about it, because a different person will have a very, very different space. And an easy way to maybe sometimes figure that out is, like, if they don't have or have never had the thing that you're chasing, it's highly unlikely they can help you solve that problem. Like, if if somebody comes to me and they're like, Tom, I want to be a 100 kilo man with a 6-pack, bicep veins, and, jacked out of my face. Can you coach me? I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Like, I can't.
Yeah, it's not your
Do you know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
Like, I don't, you know what I mean? So that would be my thing. Like, you have to be so careful about, you know, who you seek advice from, and making sure they're not leading you astray. Because again, I've seen this so many times. I had this conversation with a guy who is going online, and it suits him to go online. It kind of makes sense. He's in college part-time. He's in college full-time, but like college full-time is, you know, it's a part-time job. Yeah. And very clever dude, right? Doing a PhD and fit and strong and yada yada. And like, he'd spoken to people about going online, and, you know, they'd sort of given him suggestions and guidance, you know, blah, blah, blah. But like, nobody had worked out the numbers at the start.
Yeah.
So like, he'd got all these people who'd given him advice, and they'd just completely skipped, you know, a part of it. So yeah, but I would reiterate, most problems are very, very solvable, especially if you know the right people to talk to. And again, to go back to the other point, like, just imagine it. You know, same thing. Take the sales problem. People are like, I can't get any clients, I can't get any business, whatever. It's like, all right, cool. Let's get you a really, really effective salesperson, smiling and dining. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, if you left me at it, right? Because I know we said you could do 15. If you left me at it and I had nothing else to focus on but selling, and I was able to do it over the phone, no appointments, I reckon I can sell 25 memberships a week, each week, for probably, I'd say by the time you get to about week 5.5, you're gonna be broken. But yeah. But that's what I mean about the problem stuff. You know, because someone else could be like, well, that's an unfixable problem. You know, an accountant could look at somebody's numbers and go, hey, Johnny, look, man, it's over. Call it a day. Yeah. Talk to me. And I'm like, no, this is fixable.
And Tom, tell us this. If you had one parting piece of advice, so you're thinking there's a young guy or girl out there who's maybe looking to get into the industry, or they're maybe in the industry starting out, what piece of advice do you think you'd leave them with?
Treat it like an apprenticeship. Like it. Learn your trade, learn your craft. Nice. Seriously. Work. Like, I honestly, no joke, right? I'd gone to college, I had a degree in business studies. I was articulate and polite and friendly, and I'd sold stuff. When I went working for that guy, like, he didn't care about any of that. Yeah. You're on buttons, my man. Yeah. Like, and he literally, like, he was a bit more, like, he was like, really easy to get fired here. Yeah. I'm going to pay you pittance. But I was like, this is the guy for me. Yeah. Genuinely, I was like, this. And I did interview at another place, and they were really like, hello. And I was like, yeah, these, I mean, they're nice and all, but I don't know whether they're, I knew this. I was like, this guy is not hanging it, but like, he can teach me a lot. So I think people should look at it from that point of view. Learn their trade, learn their craft. And part of that trade and part of that craft, if you want to go out on your own, and they all do, right? Because they're becoming personal trainers, is you've got to do those numbers. Mm. And you can do those numbers really quickly. Like, you do it in the morning.
Yeah. And tell us this, Tom, if anybody was looking to reach out, touch base with you, find out a bit more about what you do, how would they find you?
Two ways. One, go to the fitnessbusiness.ie. It's just a placeholder website. Okay. Everything I do is genuinely from referral. I don't run ads. I don't do any of that. And I have too much going on. I have this business, I have a team, I have a baby, I have a couple of other consulting clients, and a couple of other things I'm looking at. Yeah. Do you know, I got them. Well, do you know, all joking aside, I'll tell you, I did get them. I started a Facebook group. Yeah. And I started hammering people into it. And I put content into the Facebook group. Here's how to sell more memberships. Yeah. Here's how to delivering value.
Yeah. Given.
Yeah. But like, solving the problem. What are the problems they're coming up with? I can't make any money. I can't sell memberships. People won't turn up to the appointments. People, when they do, they tell me, let me have a think about it. And in case anyone's listening, right, here's a quick one for you, really quick. And there's hundreds of these, and, you know, Sean is way better at this than me. But what I say to people at the start of an appointment, right? No, seriously, I just say at the start of the appointment, I said, I've one favor to ask, if you don't mind. And they go, no, not a problem. I said, at the end of our chat, you give me a clear yes or no about whether you're going to get started.
Love it.
Helps me and the team just know where we're going next. that sound reasonable or fair?
That.
You can use, and they'll go, yeah. And what that does is it kills the. Do you know what? Let me have a think about it.
It takes maybe off the table. Yeah. Everybody hates a fucking maybe. Just be a yes or a clear no.
But there's more other. There's a nicer way of phrasing it, but like because we're doing a podcast and it's for professionals and people in the industry, but like there's a version of that to it. It's like that's how we do it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Listen, if somebody took that away and that was the only thing that they took away from this whole hour or whatever it is, the business would move on.
Fucking right, yeah. You're going to get results right away as soon as you implement that. Love it. So they can get this on thefitnessbusiness.com?
Yeah, you go to thefitnessbusiness.ie.
Fitnessbusiness.ie.
Click there. There's a contact form on there, and away we go. I will say this, okay, and you guys will probably laugh. Don't send me a message saying, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Can I pick your brain? Right? No. Okay. It shows, and it very sincerely, right? It shows that you don't really respect other people's time. And it's just cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. What I used to do when I got more inquiries and stuff like that is I just be like, sure, no problem. Here's a link to book an hour with me.
Yeah.
And there's only a couple of things that happened, but what used to always make me laugh is they just go quiet and I wouldn't follow up because why would I bother? It's a waste of my time. One guy came back 6 months later with like the same message.
like this dude.
No, mate.
Yeah. All right, Tom.
But the other ones, what they would do is they'd hit the link, click on it, buy, and we went.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Speed. All right, Tom. Listen, that was absolutely brilliant.
That's been amazing. Yeah.
And
thank you very much.
We'll see you on the other side. Boom.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see in that room.
We'll see in that room. Yeah.
100%.
Count me in.
The collective.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you.
See you later.
Take it easy, man.
Bye-bye.